Hello.
Hi, how's it going, Leon?
It's going very well. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to connect.
Oh my God, I know you.
Yeah, I know you too.
How are you?
I'm good.
Tell everyone who you are.
So my name is Orly Wahba. I am the founder of a nonprofit organization called Life Vest Inside, which is geared towards empowering people to get out there and spread kindness into the world.
Indeed, and we've met on the phone many times.
This
And
was
you are
back
a
some
very
time ago.
yeah, and you're a very inspiring kindness warrior.
I think we're all inspiring in our own way. It's just about tapping into our to what we're the best at doing. But yes,
That is
I find
very true.
inspiration in every person I meet. So I love it.
Beautiful. So can you tell us how you became who you are, and from specifically the kindness perspective, why you went out
100%.
into the world and became someone that's spreading kindness?
So I'll tell you just a little bit about my background before I even started Life That's Inside. I actually was a middle school teacher for 7 incredible life-changing years. I loved my years teaching. I loved my students. And the truth is the concepts of kindness, compassion, empathy, these were things I was implementing into my classroom on a daily basis. It wasn't just about teaching the facts and the figures, but it was about empowering my students to recognize their value so that they can see the value in others. But my story begins even way before I was a teacher. It was actually my students that inspired me to, in a sense, to leave my job. It was going to be just a year off I was going to take to pursue this dream I had in my heart ever since I was a little kid. And it wasn't a dream per se to start a nonprofit, but it was a dream to bring people together in the world through the power of kindness. And it was my students that empowered me. They said, Orly, you need to share your message with the world. So where does my story really begin? Like I said, I could sort of trace it back to being a little 4-year-old kid, my dad tucking me into bed. And I always felt in my heart that I was meant to do something to bring people together in this world. I didn't understand from a very young age. I didn't understand where animosity came from and why it existed between people of different backgrounds, races, religions. And I felt in my heart that I was meant to do something to infuse kindness into the world. But when you're a kid talking about wanting to change the world with kindness, people look at you like you're completely nuts. And when you're an adult doing it, they look at you like you're even more nuts. So I just got used to people thinking I'm nuts. It's completely fine. But being a young kid, this was a very, very, very big passion of mine. I didn't know how, and I didn't know what, but I knew my why. And I always say that if you know your why, the how is going to find its way to you. But growing up, there were some difficulties that I went through, as we all go through. When you're often, as a kid, told that you can't do something, the biggest issue is that you come to believe it yourself. For example, just even schooling for me was very difficult. Learning was very, very difficult. And when you're not good at doing something, you don't tend to like going to do it. And so I had a lot of insecurities, as we all do. And those insecurities followed me through my younger years, my formative years. And I would say that a shift happened, a small shift happened for me in my middle school years, which is a tough time as it is, as a middle schooler. And imagine coming to school one day in the beginning of 7th grade, come to school, all of a sudden, all my friends, or the people I thought were my friends, suddenly completely turned on me. No, you can't sit here with us at lunch. I'd call to make plans on the weekend. Everyone would tell me that they had plans with their family. I'd find that they'd all hang out together. They would just laugh at me behind my back. And these things, they affect you. These things that happen to us in our life, they do affect us. And I remember being in my 7th grade year, going to the nurse's office almost every single day, not wanting to be there, not feeling like I belonged there. And those feelings followed me into 8th grade, followed me into high school. I really retreated into myself in a very, very deep way. I always loved people. I was the kid, if you were absent from school, whether we hung in the same crew or not, I was a kid that would, copy notes for you on carbon paper way back when, okay, and bring it to you the next day. And going into high school, it's a tough time as it is. You're trying to figure out who you are, right? Amidst everybody telling you who you should be. And I was a very shy kid. I would not speak. I wouldn't be doing something like this. I was the kid that wouldn't even raise their hand in class, okay? And in my sophomore year, probably the greatest thing happened to me in my life. I know it's going to sound weird that I'm saying it's the greatest thing, but I find, and I'm sure many people do, that when we're at our lowest, actually, that's when we're at our highest potential. In the beginning of my sophomore year, we had a fire in my house. And overnight, my family lost absolutely everything. And it wasn't just the fire. It was one of those years where, everything that could go wrong went wrong. And when you thought it couldn't get worse, it got worse. And my dad had lost his business. My family, we were moving around for 6 years until we all lived back under the same roof. But that first year was definitely the hardest. And I was always a very positive person, believing everything happens for a reason. But when you see your parents break down, the people that are the strongest people in your life, when you see them break down, it does something to you that I can't really explain in words. But all I knew is I didn't want to add to their burden. And I just made very light of the situation. And I would keep my emotions hidden from my family. My friends would, they didn't know what to say to me, so they would change the subject. Oftentimes when a topic is uncomfortable, people just change the subject. But really all I needed was someone to hear me. Until one day I couldn't hold it in anymore. And one day I went to sleep and I just sort of didn't wake up the next day. I fell into a state of really, really dark depression. And when I say dark, I mean suicidal dark. I was in a really bad place. I was angry at the whole world. I was really angry angry at myself, angry at my family, at my friends, angry at God. I was angry. But I realized it wasn't because of the fire. I was home from school for several months. High school terms, it's like eternity to be away from school, And during that time that I was home from school, not one person came to visit. Not one person called to see if I was okay. And that made me feel, well, if I wasn't here tomorrow, would that matter to anybody? Would anybody even notice? Would it even make a difference? And it felt like the answer was no. And that scared me. And that hurt me. And I just wanted to give up on everything. The pain was very, very, very great. I didn't even realize how bad the situation was with my family. I only found out years later that there were times where it was difficult to know how my family was going to put food on the table. It was a really difficult time. After several months, I was forced to go back to school, but I wasn't the same kid. I was this kid sitting in the corner, didn't want to talk to anybody, didn't want to see anybody, didn't care about my schooling. I had lifted myself so high up. At this point, I just didn't care. It didn't make a difference. And I didn't trust anybody. I didn't trust that anybody really cared. I feel like people just said they cared. So people would come up to me and, oh, are you okay? And, I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. But inside it was like I was screaming, please ask me again. Please ask me again. And they wouldn't. And I'd say, you see, they don't really care. And I always won this game. And one morning, I'll never forget this morning, I was getting ready to go to school. And I was in the bathroom and I was washing up. And I started looking at myself in the mirror. Like really, really looking at myself in the mirror. The scariest thing happened. I didn't see me. I didn't see that 4-year-old Orly, that kid that dreamed of changing the entire world. I didn't see that kid looking back at me. It was like the spark went out in my eyes. And that, honestly, that scared me more than anything. And it was in that moment I made a promise to myself. And it was that promise that guided me to my years teaching, that guided me to the work I'm doing with Life Vest Inside. It was that promise that wakes me up until this day, wakes me up every morning. And it was a promise to be there for people the way I wish somebody would have been there for me. But more than that, it was to see people the way I just wish somebody would have seen me. Because at the end of the day, really all we want in this world is to feel like we're seen, like we matter, like we make a difference. And those next 2 years of high school were tough. I didn't have like a crew of friends. It's hard enough to walk across the lunchroom alone in high school. Okay. But But it gave me the greatest opportunity. I thank God for this opportunity because it gave me the chance to fall in love with me for me, to find my voice. It gave me the chance to recognize that there's inherent value within me, whether somebody sees it or whether they don't see it. And in my senior year of high school, in the beginning of the year, we went on a seminar, all the kids in the grade. And we get there, and in one of the sessions, there was a teacher, and we were all sitting in a circle, and the teacher was talking about obstacles. And I did something I never, ever did before. I raised my hand, and I had something to say. And these kids that I used to be so super intimidated from, you know what I mean by that? Like so intimidated from, I'd be very, very careful. Like, what is it? These kids were listening to me and then coming to me afterwards and asking me for advice. And what I found is that the more I gave, the more I started to heal. And the more I gave, the more I healed. And I became obsessed in love with this concept and this idea of giving, but not just giving of any kind, because I was always a giver. But I came to realize that there are ultimately two types of giving in this world. One really positive and one really dangerous, one that could be really negative. There's giving from a place of abundance, giving from a place of strength, just like a candle, right? It can light many other candles, yet it still retains its flame. And then there's giving from a place of weakness. And when a person gives from a place of weakness, their giving leaves them feeling depleted. It sort of feels like a sacrifice. Giving shouldn't feel that way. And what I realize is, the moment that a person starts to feel like their giving feels like sacrifice, they have to stop giving outwardly and they have to start giving inwardly. Because the concept is that if we're not afloat, if we're not staying afloat, we can't help anybody else. And that the person that is giving from a place of weakness, if they continuously do that, they can come to resent that same giving. That same person that has the potential to be a hero can become the world's greatest villain. I know it sounds crazy, but it's the same energy. And we have to be very careful of where this is coming from. And what I recognize, and it's one of the things that basis of everything that I was teaching in my classroom was really focused on empowerment, empowering people to recognize their value, their inherent value, that they're unique, that they're significant, that they matter. And in the same way that they matter, so does each and every other individual. We each have our story and we each serve as another piece of the puzzle, different shapes, different colors, but every single piece the same size. But it's only once we come to truly love who we are that we can be free. I mean, free to embrace people for who they are, not who we want them to be. And so it was that promise of a 15-year-old kid that really guided me on that path. But it was the hope of a 4-year-old kid that I think is what brought me here today.
That was very profound. And let me tell you that a lot of what you say and have shared today is really a lot of what I share. I mean, you've never heard my speech, and I've actually never heard your speech, but they are so similar. And, it comes from a place of feeling unheard, feeling unseen, and knowing how important it is to make someone, specifically a kid, but an adult as well, but specifically a kid, feel seen. Because the moment that kid feels seen, everything changes for them. Everything.
I mean, when a person recognizes their value, I mean, think about how much more the idea, the concept behind it is that if I understand that I matter, then therefore my choices matter. And well, if my choices matter, I'm more likely to make better choices. But when a person doesn't have any value for themselves, therefore their choices don't matter. What does it matter the way they choose to act to somebody or what they choose to do? Because they don't think it actually makes a difference. So if we can acknowledge that and recognize that, my goodness, if a person understands that their choices matter, just imagine how much more they're able to contribute into the world in a positive way. It completely shifts things. So that's really the concept there.
And how do you get a kid, apart from words, to feel like they matter?
That's a really great question. The truth of the matter is, if we're talking about, for example, whether it be in schools, whether it be a parent to their child, or just in general, it's our actions. Yes, our words are very important, but really, if your words are just words and you don't actually feel the feelings, you're just like reading from a script. Oh, well, this book says that I should say so-and-so to my kid. And so I say it, but how come they're not reacting? Well, of course not react. If you don't believe it, kids are the smartest people in the world. I love kids. Okay. They are the smartest people in the world. They can see right through. If something isn't true, if something is not authentic, they're going to see it. So unless you actually believe what you're saying, it's not going to do anything. I feel bad to say it, but it's just the truth. And that's why your actions really speak volumes. When I was a teacher, I loved my years teaching for so many reasons. But I always say, I felt like I was the best version of myself when I was a teacher. Why? Because I knew that my actions weren't just affecting me. They were affecting every single student that was watching me every single day, whatever interactions I would have, whether in the classroom, outside the classroom. And so because I understood so much the value of my choices, you naturally are making better choices. Your actions, the modeling that you do, the modeling behavior is extremely important. If you want a child to recognize that something is important or that certain values are important, you have to model that behavior in itself. And more than that, it's not just about reading the words, the script. It's about taking the time to see them, to sit with them, to ask them those questions, to feel that what they're going through matters. It's so funny. I had a student of mine. I just actually bumped into her less than a month ago. She's now in her late 20s, which is ridiculous. It's so crazy. And I had her when she was in 7th and 8th grade. And I remember it was, I think, in her senior year of high school or right after she graduated high school. She called me up and she said, Orly, I got to ask you something. I said, what? She goes, how did you listen to us when we were like complaining like that in 7th grade about like the most ridiculous things? She's like, my sister is in middle school now. She comes home sharing these most ridiculous things. And I'm like, oh my God, you really think that that's a problem? Like, you really think that that's an important thing? She goes, how did you listen to us? So I said to her, don't you realize that little issue that you're calling it a little problem, whether it was a fight with a friend or a test or a teacher, that meant the world to you at that time. So it meant the world to me. I said, if it didn't mean anything to me, do you think you would have felt as comfortable as you did to talk to me, to open up to me? She's like, wow, I didn't realize that. She goes, maybe I should really listen to what my sister's going through. I said, yeah, because when I'm talking to you, when you're in 7th grade, I literally I'm imagining myself transported back to being that 7th grader, especially because I actually taught in the same school where I was a student. So it was the most bizarre thing ever. Okay. I was in the classroom, like I was just sitting there, I sat there, but I transport myself to that. And that's really what empathy is. It's putting yourself in the position that when you're talking to somebody, you're talking to somebody and trying to envision what it's like, remembering, if you can, recalling to be in whatever position they are. And suddenly what they have to share makes a difference. And then it's not fake. You're actually authentically connecting with them because you're talking to your younger self or you're talking to a piece of you. That's really where advice comes from, right? Isn't that what advice is all about? When we listen to somebody, we give them advice. We're actually sort of giving advice to ourselves. We're talking to a piece in ourselves. And so to me, that's really what it's all about. It's modeling behavior. And it's also empathizing and being able to place yourself in that child's position. There's a story that I share. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, but there's this one story I got to share with you. This happened. It was a young boy in 8th grade. And this was a kid that was, in the beginning of the year, teachers, they get together, right? And they get their list of what students are going to be in their class and so on and so forth. And I never used to sit like in the teacher's room. I used to always sit with the kids because there's always too much stuff going on, people talking things that they shouldn't be talking. And teachers would say, oh, you have this kid? Oh my gosh, get ready. You're in for a crazy situation. He's going to drive you nuts. And I was like, why? Now, imagine you're right now as a teacher, potentially you are able to influence what another teacher thinks about a student before that teacher has even met the student. And this student was labeled by everyone to be this really tough kid, this bully kid against authority, just And so a lot of the teachers were already out for him even before getting to know him. And I had him in my class, and he was difficult. I'm not saying he wasn't difficult, but I would always push him to continue trying. And he was hard on me. He was really hard on me. One day I'm in class and I was like just doing some work, and I hear some screaming going on right outside. And I see it was him and the principal and another teacher. And this teacher really didn't like this kid. I mean, she really didn't like him. And she's screaming and wants him to get expelled and so on and so forth. And I came on over and I spoke on his behalf. And I took him to the side and we went into the stairwell. We started speaking, and he started screaming and started crying. He says, "Why do you care so much? I'm so mean to you. Why do you care so much? Why do you care so much? Like, why'd you do that for me?" And I looked at him and I said, "Because I know what it's like to not be seen." And I shared with him my personal story. And I said to him, you can try to push people away. I know what that's like. I've done that. I've been down that path. I said, but one thing, this is one person you're never going to push away. So you could try, but I'm not going to budge. And I only hope that one day you'll see in yourself what I see in you. Because I see someone awesome, with such incredible potential. From that moment, I can't tell you the change he made in my classroom. At the end of the 8th grade year, I wrote him a letter. And about several years later, right after high school, I bumped into him in front of my house. And he said to me, "Orly, I have to tell you something." He said, I went into high school and I had similar issues with, teachers having it out for me and making it really hard on me. And he said, "Do you have any idea how torn your letter is from the amount of times I've opened it and read it throughout high school to remind me that you were betting on me?" It's like, I can't tell you how much that's meant to me. And he goes, "You know what I'm doing right now?" He said to me, "You know what I'm doing right now?" I said, "Well, what are you doing right now?" He says, "I'm mentoring at-risk kids." He said, "Because I don't want anybody to feel what I felt. And I want to empower them the way you empowered me. I want to bet on them the way that you bet on me." That is the power of seeing somebody. It's incredible and it's very far reaching. We have no idea. No idea.
Well, I will tell you that the person that you're sitting in front of today for this podcast has a very good idea of the power of being seen. Because I had a teacher just like you many years ago who saw me. I was bullied every day, and she would look at me in the eyes and she would say, "I believe in you." And I never forgot her. She never wrote me a letter, but what she did do was instill in me the power of feeling like I mattered, feeling heard, feeling seen. And whenever there was a darkness in my life, I would look back and think to myself, well, Mrs. Mann believes in me, so I'm going to keep going. So it was so beautiful for me to hear the story from your perspective, right? And from the perspective of the kid, because that's something that happened to me and made me who I am today. And I will say something else. You talk about empathy, and empathy clearly is absolutely critical. So my question to you is, how do we teach people empathy? I don't even know if that's the right kind of phraseology. How do we teach people empathy? But how do we kind of get adults, not necessarily kids now, adults to feel empathy? Because if you don't feel empathy, as you know very well, ultimately you will do bad things. So how do we get adults to learn and to implement empathy in their lives?
It's a really great question. And the truth of the matter is, it's all about awareness. What do I mean by that? If you go out there and you ask, you poll 1,000 people and you ask them, do you consider yourself to be empathetic or kind? Now, majority of the people, if not all, are going to say, yeah, I'm kind. That's something But then when it comes down to the actual actions, do those things match up? Because, being empathetic or being kind, it's it's something very broad, right? It's something people believe in. It's inherent in us as human beings. The thing is that our awareness is not increased enough. We need to become aware to start seeing what does empathy look like? What does kindness look like? When a person sees an example of what that is, they're more likely to take advantage of those opportunities. What do I mean? So I'd started this in my classroom years and years ago, where I created these cards for my students. And now, we have them on a bigger scale, but I created these cards for my students called acts of kindness cards, right? And on them, it wasn't just about acts of kindness, but it's also because it's very connected. Kindness and empathy are very, very connected, because if you're empathetic, you're more likely to engage in acts of kindness. It will come more naturally to you. I should say it that way. Not that you won't be able to do it otherwise. And so on each card, it had a different act. And it said, please perform the act and pass the card on. Let's keep the kindness going. And the purpose of these cards was that, if you're engaging in the act and then you pass it on, you never know how many people's lives it will touch. But more than that, it was all about increasing awareness. I gave a card to a student of mine, okay? It said on it, hold the door open for someone. I mean, it's a very, very sensible thing. You see somebody, you want to open the, but it said it was something specific. Hold the door open for someone. The next day, the kid comes into my classroom, freaking out. Oh my God, Orly, you're not going to believe what happened to me. It's ridiculous. I said, what happened? He goes, it was the weirdest thing. The second after you gave me that card, everywhere I looked, there was like doors everywhere that needed to be opened. There was doors there and there. I couldn't believe how many doors I was opening. And I started laughing. And I said, those doors were there yesterday and they were there the day before. But it's just that now we're becoming aware when we see something, when we actually see something in front of us, we're becoming aware. Oh, that's how I exercise empathy. Oh, that's how I exercise kindness. Now we're more able, ready, and willing to seize those opportunities, to seize those moments. So, one of the reasons why I've written a book called Kindness Boomerang, 365 ways, right, to spread kindness in the world. Basically, it's a page a day, every day of the year, with an act, an inspirational quote, and then like a short form lesson on the power of paying it forward. Very, very short form reading, 12 categories of kindness in all different types of situations. What was the purpose of it? Between that or the daily kindness, send out like a daily email with an act of kindness. What's the purpose of it? The purpose of it, again, is to increase awareness, because we have a very important muscle in our body that you can't exercise at the gym, okay? It's our eye muscle. And just like if you go to the gym after a long time of not exercising, you start lifting weights, you can't move the next day. You're like, wow, I can't, my whole body is killing me. But our eyes are a muscle just like it. We have to exercise them to start seeing the opportunities. Because if we start seeing the opportunities, we're more likely to seize those opportunities. So that's a very, very big part of it. It's about inner work. And everyone needs to do inner work. Inner work is the hardest work, right? The work of the heart is the hardest work to do. It's very easy to be busy with stuff. I mean, really, truly, thank God we're out of this craziness of COVID. But these past couple of years, really, it was about people engaging. It was an opportunity for people to engage in work of the heart. Not everybody necessarily chose to do that, but the busyness went away. It was silent. And a lot of people we had to look ourselves in the mirror, do a lot of reflection, inner work, which is not easy. We like to distract ourselves with all the busy work, right? All the things to-do list that we got to do, just so that we don't have to have a few minutes of silence to think about who we are and where we're doing and what are the values that are important to us. That's scary. That's scary stuff. Because what if the person you're looking at in the mirror, you don't really like that person? Now you have a responsibility to do something about it. That's very scary. But it's the greatest opportunity, because our purpose being here in this world is very simple. It's to improve our character. That is our purpose in this world. And each and every one of us have the things that we're good at, and the things we're not so good at. We all come into the world on different levels. And that's why we can't judge, because some things are easier for some people. Some things are not as easy for others. But it's about looking at the things within ourselves that's hard for us and doing that inner work, focusing on our character, focusing on our values. That in itself helps to increase empathy, because we're doing internal work. We're looking in. Looking in will naturally bring a person towards empathy, because then it makes a person think, wow, I know I know what that's like. I'm not going to judge someone so quickly because I also been in a situation like so-and-so or like this. So a lot of this is inner work. It's not a magic, thing or pill that you have to take and you make this mix and you drink it and you're good to go. It's not like a quick diet. This is work. You want to improve yourself. You want to increase empathy. You want to increase, kindness. You got to do a lot of that inner work. It's not just about reading a book. It's about putting what you're reading into action, right? So you may get some sort of, I don't know what, but it's a self-help book or whether it's an actionable book or whatever it is, or you're listening to a podcast. That's all great and good. But you have to be able, at the end of learning or hearing, to take small actions, even if it's the tiniest thing in the whole world, small action. How can I implement what I'm hearing? Because if you get inspired by listening to somebody, but it's just inspiration, that's going to fade and you're not going to move anywhere. When you're inspired, when you're in a state of inspiration, oh my goodness, seize that moment. Write something down, choose something, but make it so minuscule. Make it so tiny. Okay? You might think, oh, but that's so tiny. No, make it small. Everybody wants to, dream big. Dreaming big is great, but you got to think small. Because when you make one positive action, you're continuously doing it. You're continuously practicing. You're continuously working out that empathy muscle, that eye muscle, that action. Then you could take on yet another small step and yet another small step. And eventually you're going to get to where you want to be. But if you try to change overnight, right? Like how people make these resolutions. I'm going to change who I am. I'm going to lose all this weight. I'm going to go to the gym every single day. Then the minute the first day comes that they didn't go to the gym, the next day, I missed yesterday. It's not about all or nothing. Changing who we are on the inside, it's a slow and steady wins the race. It's about making change little by little so that eventually you're going to get to the person that you want to be. But it's all a focus on character and values, inner work.
It strikes me that you are like a lightning bolt of kindness, right? We know each other. We know each other, but we've never really had an opportunity to spend 35 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right? So
yeah.
I often get this question. And the question I get is, have you ever been mean? So I'm going to ask you that question. Have you ever been mean?
Of course. Everybody's been mean. That's a crazy thing. And if anybody that tells you otherwise is just lying to you. I mean, no one is perfect in this world. And like, it's not about being perfect. It's about continuously waking up and saying, I'm going to make today better. That's not easy to do. It's not easy to do. So yeah, of course. I'm sure. Again, also when you're saying, have you ever been mean? It's all a matter of perspective because, people can get hurt. This happened today. Oh my gosh. Okay. This happened today. I run an event for the organization called Dance for Kindness. Okay. It's a global flash mob that kicks off World Kindness Week. It's run by volunteer leaders all around the world. It's awesome. And this is going to be our 10th annual year. We have the same song, same dance every year. And it's all run by these volunteer leaders, amazing people that I beyond love. It's the most fun. And, especially over the past couple of years of COVID, the past 2 years, we didn't have this physical event, of course. And so, but I wanted to reach out to like past group leaders that I've known. These are volunteer leaders to just check up on them and see how they're doing, see how life is going. So I started sending messages individually to some of the group leaders on like Facebook Messenger, right? And I sent this message and someone that I was like so close, like I was really close to, she messages me back something like super short and it sounded really cold. And because I know her, how you can read if there's something else going on there. So I was like, that's really weird. And so I sent a message back and I'm like, is everything okay? Because I could be wrong. I could be reading into your tone wrong because it's just a text, but it sounds like something is wrong. And she didn't respond to that. And I said, I'm really racking my mind. Did I do something to hurt you or to offend you in some way? Like very strange. And I sent her messages over like a couple of months. And just today, I said, you know what? I'm going to send her another, and I didn't receive a response. I said, I'm going to send her another message because I don't get it. Like, what happened? I don't understand. I thought we were friends. So I sent her another message and she sends me a voice message back. I was like beyond excited. So I click on it to listen to it, like, what's going on? And she basically shares in this short voice message. She's like, I'm sorry that I know I didn't respond to you. I realized I didn't respond to you. There was something that hurt me. And, I would say I've let it go, but I don't know. It's still there. And she said to me, a few years back, I applied late to be a group leader, or I sent a message. I don't even know where she sent the message. I sent the message late and you didn't respond to me. And I said, that's what she's upset about. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I sent her a message back, like a really nice message back. And I said, first of all, I respond really to every message people send me, but via Facebook messengers, like there could be messages there that have not seen whatever. There's so much spam and stuff. So I always tell people, message me on WhatsApp, message me on I answer all my messages. Anytime someone said, I answer the message. And I said, something as simple as this. And so, I communicated back and the error was cleared, but people can in a sense, perceive something that you're doing differently than necessarily how you perceive it. I didn't even know that I did something mean to her, but apparently she perceived it in that way because a message wasn't answered. I don't remember getting a message. So it's it could be a tricky situation. I think everyone has done something to hurt someone somehow because we're all different people. So we see things and we perceive things differently. But, what does that teach me? What that teaches me is very simple, to also give the benefit of the doubt. If I send a message to somebody and I have not heard back from them and I'm messaging them and I didn't hear back from them, it's going to make me now, if that happens in the future, that I get upset. How come this person isn't answering me? It's going to make me stop and think about this woman and say, wait a minute, let me give that person the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they didn't get the message. Maybe something's going on in their family. Like, I have no idea. And so that's how I take these kinds of experiences. I always find that they're little like messages from up above of, hey, now that you experience this, now you're going to be able to give more benefit for the doubt when something like this happens in the opposite way to you. That's really, I think, how we grow most.
And the theme of not being perfect is a beautiful one. Because what I find is that many people think to themselves, if I make one mistake in my kindness journey, I'm a horrible human being and I'm just going to stay in the horrible lane, as opposed to, okay, so you made a mistake because you're human. That doesn't mean you have to go into the horrible lane for the rest of your life. Go into the kind lane for as long as you can, right?
100%, because no one is perfect. And anybody that tells you that they're perfect, or anybody that tells you always have to be happy. Oh, I've never sad a day of my life. They're just lying to you. I mean, that's not true. Everyone has bad days. Everyone has bad, experiences and things like that. We all do. We all have those moments where we're down on ourselves. I do. I mean, I'm sure you do. We all do. That's okay to make those mistakes. It's okay to stumble, but it's about pushing ourselves to get back up again. It could be hard, because sometimes when we set out on a path that we want to change who we are, we want to fix a certain part of our character. What happens is that when we make a mistake, sometimes the people that are closest to us will say, you see, you haven't changed. And that is a killer. That is a killer to the person that's actually trying to make progress, because it could actually make them want to give up on it. So a message to all of us is also that when somebody makes a mistake, understand that they're also just a human being trying to climb this ladder of life, trying to get to a better them. But we all have our moments that we fall. We all have our moments that we stumble. But the greatest critic in our lives is oftentimes ourselves. And if we give in to the fact, I made a mistake, now I'm bad, that energy is going to stop you from progressing in any aspect of your life. Tomorrow is a new day. Even the next hour is a new hour. You have every single day, it's like you getting the paints in your hand and you get a blank canvas and you get to create whatever picture you want. Maybe the picture isn't going to look like you want in one day, or maybe it really looks super black or dark or whatever, but you're going to have a new canvas the next day, and you can recreate that picture, but just not to get down on ourselves. That's why we have to take small steps and celebrate the small wins. This is key. When you're on this pathway to want to, build yourself to become a better person, and you will stumble, that's fine. Celebrate the small wins, because if you're going to focus on the negative energy, that's going to always make you feel like you're at a lack. But if you celebrate the wins, wow, I did this great, or I accomplished this. You're working off of positive energy, positive momentum, and it will make you want to continue along your journey. It will make you want to continue and continue. So sometimes, people always say, look ahead to what's coming. I say sometimes you have to look behind to how far you've come. Look at how far up the ladder you came. Don't look at how much more you have to go. Let the positive energy propel you forward. Don't let the negative energy hold you back.
Celebrate the small wins. I love that. So look, to finish this, I am often asked the question, what does kindness mean to you? And I'll tell you my answer after you've graced us with your answer. What does kindness mean to you?
Kindness to me, man, I have so many responses to something like this, but kindness to me really, I think, is seeing the beauty. I know it's going to sound strange, but it is seeing the beauty in yourself so that you have the ability to see the beauty in others. Because if you will see that beauty, if you recognize just how incredible you are as a human being here, how much of a piece of the puzzle you are, that in itself is a kindness, because it will propel you to view each and every person as another piece of the puzzle. And therefore more kindness will exist in the world.
Beautiful. So seeing the beauty in ourselves, therefore we see it in...
So we can see it in others. Exactly.
That's a beautiful answer. My answer has always been kindness is simply helping someone feel less alone. Because we've all felt alone. There isn't a single human being that's ever lived, that ever will live, that won't feel alone or has felt alone. And when we go out into the world and share that beauty that you talk about with others, we are saying to them, you are
I see you.
Exactly. I see you.
I see you.
And you are not alone.
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. Like I said, it's that the promise to see others. The promise to see others. I had wished somebody would have seen me. That is the energy that will propel me forward, no matter how much goes down wrong or how many obstacles come in my way. That promise is what keeps me going.
And it's very clear to me that you see everyone, right? To the best of your ability, right? I mean, we're not perfect, yeah?
Yeah.
But it's clear. And it's been a real honor and a pleasure. And it's amazing. We've actually known each other for quite some time.
Isn't that craziness?
But we've never actually kind of sat down like this and
look, you know what? Everything is about the timing, right? Everything is about the timing. So it was meant to happen now. And I have so much respect and admiration for who you are and the work that you do and the light that you bring. And I'm just really grateful, and I'm honored for you taking the time to have this conversation with me.
It's beautiful. And I hope many people get to listen to it. And actually, one thing that we didn't talk about was the Life Vest stuff.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So basically, Life Vest Inside, the nonprofit, it's the mission is to inspire, empower, and educate people of all backgrounds to lead a life of kindness. But the essence is, like we were saying earlier, empowerment, right? To see people. And the way that we spread this message is through several means, through inspirational media like film, through education, developing and implementing curriculum, through technology, and through leadership training programs and international events like the Dance for Kindness event that I was sharing with you. It got started, the organization, through a short film I did called Kindness Boomerang, just the same like the book. The film came first, but Kindness Boomerang was all based on real life experiences I personally went through, like these moments that left an impression on me, showing one act of kindness as it goes from one person to the next, to the next, to the next, and then comes back to the person that set it into motion. And when I created this film, I was still a teacher. It was during my summer off of teaching. And the following year, when I left my job for the year to see what would happen, I put this film online, and within a month or so, it went crazy viral. We reached well over like 100 million people at this point. And it's been incredible, because it was that film is really what sparked all the work that I'm doing with the organization right now. But that's really what it's focused on. It's focused on being able to bring this message to the world in many means, whether it be through media, through technology, through education, through events, and through training programs. That's how we help spread the message in the world. And right now we're gearing up for our 10th annual Dance for Kindness, which in itself is a leadership training program. It teaches people. We have group leaders from ages 10 to 76. Okay. And it's not only teaching people how to organize this event in their city, which is so much fun to get involved in, but the leadership training program provides the group leaders with the steps of how to take any idea you have for positive change and put it into fruition. Because many people dream about doing a lot of good, but many people also get very overwhelmed with, well, how do I start? How do I execute on an idea that I have? This program teaches a person how to take a big idea and break it into its small parts, how to dream big, but think small. So that you can take, after going through this process, you can take the skill sets and the resources and the tools to incorporate positive change within your community, within your city, and so on and so forth. And so it's teaching this process. How do we take a big idea that seems bigger than ourselves, even if we don't have a dollar to our name? How do we take this idea and break it into its parts and put it into fruition to impact change in the world? That to me is a key component.
And how do people get involved? I mean, like, how can they find you?
Yeah. So, I mean, on the website, so we have several websites, but you can get to all of them from lifevestinside.com. And the concept behind Life Vest Inside is that kindness keeps the world afloat like a life vest. That's the idea. So on there, you'll be able to see all the different projects, whether it be Dance for Kindness or Project Hope Exchange and so on and so forth. But danceforkindness.com would be the website to go to get involved and apply to be a group leader. We just opened up group leader registration so people can apply. The event takes place November 13th to celebrate World Kindness Day. And this is going to be our 10th annual event. And it's our first event after 2 years, our first physical event after 2 years of COVID. So we're gonna dance in the streets and join together hand in hand. It's going to be pretty awesome. Amazing.
Truly amazing. Orly, thank you very, very much. And
thank
as
you so much.
This podcast is genuine because I literally, even though I know you, I literally had no idea it was going to be you. And you didn't message me, you didn't text me. We just like, what? I know you.
I love it. It's classic. I love it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's Leon here, aka The Kindness Guy. If you like my videos, which I hope you do, don't forget to press the subscribe button and also to ring the little bell so that the notifications notify you